Hi, this is Demond and you are watching Salesforce REST API session 1. So in this session you will learn how to connect to Salesforce using REST API in .NET application. Using this REST API we can perform different web service application like migration, data loading, all these things. So in this video we have written one code which will connect to Salesforce using REST API in .NET, which will perform to get list of objects and will log out the session. So here these are the different list of custom objects, okay, and these are the different list of Salesforce standard objects. So using this application, .NET application we have written, will perform to connect to Salesforce first. Here we are providing credential, username and password, and it will connect to Salesforce using login, clicking on login button. Here you can see it is successfully connected and we have obtained the service URL as well. And using these buttons we can access list of objects, standard and custom, and we can write these objects name into a text file. So this is the text file which has been generated and contains all the list of objects. So this has been explained in this video, how to write this code in .NET application. And for example, this is one custom object and this is also the custom object's name present in the text file which has been exported. Okay, so this is the exe file. Now we can perform logout. You can see that it has been successfully logged out, and if we try to get list of objects again, it will say unauthorized, and this is the logout using get method. So there are two REST API method, get and post. So we can perform logout using both methods, get and post. Now if we try to get all the list of objects again, we can see it will obtain because we have performed the login one more time. So these are the different list of objects which have been obtained. Now if we perform the logout using get method, this is the get method, and if we try to perform logout using post method, again it will say bad request. So you have to log in again and log out. So using this post method, logout has been successfully done. Okay, now this is the explanation of Java which you will see in our next video as well. So using this Java we have performed the same functionality where we are calling one jar file. Once we call the jar file, it will list it down all the list of operations. Okay, logout using get method and get list of objects. So you need to, we have used case, switch case. So in this string, if we write get all object list, okay, it will be get list all S object list. If we perform this command, it will say successfully completed and one text file has been generated which contains all the list of objects. So I have performed the connection to different org which contains all these list of objects, and it's fetching the records, fetching the object list from that org and performing this operation. And we can perform the logout again. So logout, successfully logout from using the post method. Now if I try to log out again, it will say bad request because session has been successfully revoked. Okay, so we connect again by calling the jar method, and now if we try to get all the list of objects, it will fetch. You can see that has been completed and time has been modified, so it's accessing all the list of objects. Now if we perform the logout, it will log out using the post method. Okay, if you try to log out again, it will say bad request, and if we try to get list of objects, it will say unauthorized. Okay, so this kind of operation we can perform. Now if we try to log out using get method, it will say bad request because it has already been successfully logged out. Okay, now if we try to connect again and perform the logout using get method one more time, because previously we have used post method to log out, so we are performing logout using get method, so it has been successfully logged out using get method. Okay, so if we try to log out now using the same get method, it will say bad request because it has been successfully logged out. Alright, so this kind of functionality we can easily create, and using this simple functionality we can definitely perform more advanced application. We can create more advanced application. Okay, now the application which has been used to connect is Salesforce SF REST Co. So you can see that we can have the application name as well here. All right, so in our next slide you will see how we have designed this application. Okay, going to next slide. So to design this .NET application, we have used C# and we have used Visual Studio Community 2015 SDK. So for this we have to create new project by going file, new project, and we have selected what is the type of the project. So there are multiple type of templates. We have used Visual C#. You can use Visual Basic also, so that is also quite good .NET application builder language. So in the C# we have selected Windows form template, and once you select that, this form will appear, and from here you go to the project properties and you need to uncheck this debug hosting process because it will occupy huge number of RAM. So to optimize that during the debugging time, you need to uncheck this option, and these are the different assembly option. And this is the framework, target framework, which .NET framework you are going to use, you can select from here. And from here you can see the properties of this form. These are the different properties have. So you can type name of the form as expected. This is the API name, so it has to be unique. And the text of this form, you can see the text for of this form has been changed. And now we are going, these are the different options you have. You can select easily what type of functionality you want in this application. So we are just going to select one icon file from here. So this is the icon file we are going to use, ICO file. Okay, and you can, for the debugging purpose, you can perform different application. You can easily customize your CPU. You can monitor how many RAM it is consuming, your application is consuming. Okay, this is the process monitor. We currently don't need this process monitor. So this is the application. This is simple form has been created. All right, so now from this toolbox left side, you can add different properties, different components of this form, like text box and label. So we are going to add one label and one text box. Okay, you have to rename this from here. What is the label? Username. And this is the text box which will hold the username, which you will type the Salesforce username, Salesforce org username. Okay, now this application has been designed for production because we have hard coded the URL. You can easily use the dynamic option like radio button or pick list, list of values for your org. So we are providing the API name or unique name for this text box. Now pressing Ctrl button and dragging, you can easily clone the selected components. So I just did. So I'm using another text box for password. So this is the name of the label, API name, and here I will type password. So text of this label will show as password. Okay, so this is the password. Now you need to set one property for this text box, because if you debug this application, you will see that password you are typing is not coming in special characters. So here the password char, this attribute you need to set as star or any kind of character you want to use. So if you write the username here and the password, it will type like star. So whatever character you will provide there, you will see there. Okay, and there are number of attributes. These are the different attributes have, so you can easily set. Now set this start position as center screen, so whenever you are running this application, you will see it will start into the center of the screen. Okay, all right. So we have very basic simple form created which will access the username and password. Okay, now this is the text box I have added, simple text box for the console purpose, so that any kind of action is being performed, you can easily monitor here. So I set name, which is the API name, unique name, as console D, and the text as console. Okay, so it will say as console. Now I will change one property of font as making the label as bold is equal to true. Okay, so it will look better. Now the console cannot be extended, so for that you need to add multi-line properties as true, so that you can add multiple line into that text box. Okay, all right. So one console has been created. Now we need to set the console box API name so that we can add value and or remove value from that console. So using this API name, we can perform different operations. Okay, now we are adding some buttons. So you can find different components, different component types into this toolbox. So the button name would be the login. And we are appending some text here to make it unique. So, and the text is only login. So we have the login button now. All right. Now we are going to create some more buttons like get all the list of objects and logout using post and logout using get method. Okay, so we need to set the properties, that API name of this button, so that we can use it for different action purpose, for different event purpose. Okay, so text as get list of objects. Okay, so we have the label of this button. So you need to just resize the button in a proper way so that you can see. All right, so now we are going to create another button. So just press Ctrl and drag so that you will see the cloned button. Now this is for logout using get method. So logout using get method and logout using post method. So we are renaming these two buttons name as logout post and logout get. So it will indicate as logout using post method and logout using get method. The same, you need to set the text in a proper name and you need to set the API name so that you can identify that these buttons will be used for this action purpose. All right, so we have these two buttons now. Now we are going to add another button as exit, so that on clicking on this button the application will exit. Okay, so you need to arrange the buttons in a proper position, and I am going to add one image file to that button so that it will look better. Okay, so first I set the API name of this button as exit D. Okay, D has to be always capital. Okay, so and the text file, we don't provide any text file, text for this button because we are going to use on image here. So just select the image by clicking on this attribute, and this is the image for this button, and clicking on OK. Always remember, do not use large image for your application because it will consume the it will increase the application size based on the image you are using as a local resource. So you can also refer external external image to your application. So you will find those functionality in your next tutorials. Keep visiting. Okay, so we have added this button. All right, now we need to set the tab indexing property. So this tab indexing is very important because if you press keyboard tab button, it will take you to that component. Okay, it will select that component because when you are not using any mouse, then you can easily use the keyboard. Okay, so this is the tab indexing functionality have. So I have set all the tab index properly in a 0 to 0 1 2 3 4 5 6 7 manner. So if you see that I am typing the username and pressing tab, it will take you to the in a proper tab order. Okay, all right, so now this is the console which is not read only. So we are making this as read only and we are making it as console view, how the console looks like. So we set the back color property as active caption text and this fore color which we set as green. Okay, so okay, we set as white now for now. So it will, you will see that it looks like in a proper application with one console. All right, okay, so now double clicking on this button, it will dynamically create one private method with object sender and event. So this button can perform different event. Okay, now we are defining one string variable as authorization token and another string variable as service URL. So this service URL is nothing but https login.salesforce.com. So we will modify this service URL accordingly based on the service URL we received or service URL your production or sandbox org is using, like API, AP1, AP2, AP3, NA14, all this. Okay, so another string variable as SFDC consumer key and SFDC consumer secret. So this SFDC consumer key and consumer secret will identify what is the name of this application or what is the identity of this application. So you can create this two, create one application in your production org or any org, and you can refer this. So I'm going to create one application here. So it would be the connected app. So I go to the app and navigate to the connected app and click on new. Okay. So on clicking on this new, it will ask you to create one connected app. So I provide the proper name as connected app as SFDC Connect V 1.0. Okay, so name has been provided and you need to provide one contact email. Our contact email is always bluefoxautomation@gmail.com. You can definitely write your queries and everything into this email address. So, and here you need to set one API authentication function settings. So here enable authentication settings, and this callback URL is login.salesforce/service auth2 and callback. Okay, and you need to set the select authentication scope as full access. You can define your own access, what are the objects it can access and how it's going to access. So using these settings you can easily define that. Okay, we need to set the API name, change the API name here. So because API name cannot contain any space or underscore space or any dot or any special character. So this app has been created. Now this is the consumer key you can have, and so we are going to use the consumer key here and the consumer secret. So consumer secret can be obtained from here. Clicking on this click reveal button, link, you can have the consumer secret here. This is the consumer secret. Okay, so these four variables has been defined. Now we are accessing the username, password, which will be typed into the form. So just we are creating one variable as SFDC username string variable, and this username text box which has been created into the form with the API name dot text, we can access the value. And now we are going to use another variable, string variable, as say SFDC password. Okay, so we just obtain that using the API name of that field and dot text. So we have these two fields, and the security token would be the security token box. So we have created one security token text box there as well. So in total SFDC password will be SFDC password plus security token. If your org is not IP restricted, then you need to use the security token to connect. Okay, so let's see. We are setting the control text box as null. So whenever you open the application, the control text box, the console box we have created will be always null. Now to connect to Salesforce, we have to create one dictionary. Okay, so dictionary is nothing but map in .NET. So we are creating one dictionary of string and string. Okay, so we can easily so this dictionary will contain the mapping between some Salesforce tokens and its value. So one Salesforce token is like grant type, so its value would be the password, and then another token is like client ID, so it should be the consumer key. Then client secret would be the consumer secret, and username that username we have obtained, and the password is password. So these are the different dictionary has been created. Now we are going to use that dictionary into the HTTP client with the HTTP client, or we will send this dictionary as a request with using the HTTP client. So we are going to create one HTTP client. We have created this HTTP client. Now we are going to use HTTP content. So HTTP content will hold the dictionary which has been created previously, which is the mapping of different tokens and its value. So we are going to create one HTTP content here, and this HTTP content needed to be URL encoded. Okay, so it would be like form URL encoded. So we have to use the form URL encoded class. Alright, so now we are going to use the HTTP response message, which will hold the response message which we are going to get from this HTTP client post method. So we use the post async method to send the request to Salesforce for this Salesforce in this URL and the content, this content. Okay, so we use this HTTP client dot post async method, and this is the URL where we are going to send the post method and with the content, and the response which will obtained from this will stored into this HTTP response method. Now we are using this await method, await attribute here, because it would be the asynchronous call. So we also have to use along with the method. So we have used async at the with the method name. Now the response which has been received from Salesforce, we are going to convert it into string. So we use the HTTP response content read string async method. Okay, and also you need to use the await along with this, because the message you are receiving is asynchronous. Okay, now let's see what response we obtained from Salesforce. So we use the console write line to see the result into the output window here. Okay, so this is the output window. So if we run this method, first we have to save it, clicking on save all. Okay, then we run this program, clicking on start button for the debugging purpose. So this application has been you can see the application now running, and we are writing the username and password and clicking on login button. Alright, okay, there is one error we are getting, is that grant type. Okay, grant type not supported. So we might have done some syntax mistake with the token here. So it should be grant type. Okay, now if we run one more time and provide the user ID and password and click on login button, you can see that we have received the access token. This is the access token, this is the instance URL, and these are the different attributes along with this. So this is the response we have received from Salesforce. So with this simple method, we can easily connect to Salesforce and obtain the access token and instance URL, which is the most this access token, which is the most important information or most important value. Using this access token, you can perform different applications. So you have to be very clear that you don't share this access token with anyone, or anyone. No one can get this access token. So Now this has been obtained in string. Now we have to use the JSON to, but I mean the response has been received in string is a JSON format. So we have to use the JSON package. So for that we use the Newtonsoft JSON. So this Newtonsoft JSON will help me to deserialize the package. Sorry, deserialize the or decode the response or obtain the different tokens from the response. Okay, so you have to install this package. So by going this package manager console, you just type those syntax. You can see that in the website. This has been described into our video description. Now we use this J object. Okay, so J object is one class which has been written into that package. You need to import that package into your class by writing using. Okay, so write using this Newtonsoft JSON. Okay, so there are different method of this class. One is Parse Method, and this is the response string which has been obtained. We are going to parse that, because this response method response format is kind of is in JSON format. Okay, so we are going to store the authentication token by writing this. So JSON object, then third bracket, and this token name, access token. Alright, and here you need to cast it with the string. It's very simple, you can easily do it. So this access token which you have obtained, you can see in the output this access token and its value. So that's why we have used access token. So in the JSON object currently holding, if you type the access token name or token name, you can easily obtain the value. Now the service URL, it should be the same option like string, then this, the token name should be the instance URL, this instance URL. Okay, so currently we have the access token, authentication token and the service URL. So if we try to see if we are able to access that or not, so we use the console.write line. So authentication token and service URL. If we debug this one and provide the username and password, and do the login, then we can see that this access token and authentication token and this is the service URL. So this is how we can easily obtain the different REST API, different JSON value using this JSON parser. Now if access token not is equal to null, then we append into the console text box as login successful. Okay, so because we have to be, if we obtain the access token, we are quite sure that login has been successful, and we will use that authentication token for different purpose later. And second, we use the instance URL. So if we see the instance URL is as same as the URL which you can see after login using browser, then you are sure that the login is successful. So the instance URL would be the service URL. Okay, now if we run this application and perform login, here you can see that login successful, and this is the instance URL. So we just have to append here the new line, and we are going to change the text color to green here. Sorry, it should be green. Green should be better, so it will look like console digital. Okay, now how do we handle the error if we type the login URL and login password as incorrect? Then Salesforce sends the response message as invalid grant, and these are the defined JSON token, that error and error type. So we are going to hold those value, that error type and what is the error description, into one string. So again it will store into the response message. Okay, so error description, error message would be like string these two token, error here and error description, error underscore description. Okay, these are the two tokens we have obtained, and the value will be stored into two string. Okay, so if any error comes, then authentication token will be null. All right, so we are just initializing this value as null first, so that we can perform different validation later. And if login is successful, then error type and error message should be blank or should be null. So here we add some more conditions, as if authentication not is equal to null and error message is equal to null, then login successful. Okay, it should be AND, double AND. Okay, so authentication not is equal to null and error message is equal to null. And if authentication is equal to null and error message is not equal to null, then login unsuccessful. Okay, so we have to append the text as login unsuccessful, and this is the error message. I mean, the reason of this unsuccessful is error, and I mean error type and the description. This error message, and what is the type of the error we should place here with all the information. Okay, so that could be another reason as well, that access security token required all these things, this kind of function, this kind of error we can obtain. So let's run why we are getting this. So this is how you can do the debugging in .NET, that run to cursor and you can see the value it's holding. So it's null, not the string null. Okay, so we have to modify our code in this way, that authentication token is equal to null and error message not is equal to null. And again, if we perform the login, we are getting login unsuccessful, authentication failure. Okay, so it's successfully working. Now we just have to add one new line here, and we do small modification here, like all null validation, as you can see. Now if we run the application with correct username and password and try to log in, we can see it's reflecting login successful, and in the org you can see we have used the application with proper name, and it's reflecting here in the login history. So if we log in again, we can see login is successful and it's reflecting the instance URL. So that's it for the login. Now in the personal information, in this login history you can see it's again reflecting. So recent login history, this is the time, you can see we just did the login and it's reflecting properly. So that's it. So for this login method you just have to get the username, password, create the dictionary, use the HTTP client and do the content, and in the HTTP response message all the response received from Salesforce is stored, and we are using Newton Soft JSON parser to parse the string and get the authentication token. Okay, now we are going to do it, we are going to get all the list of objects present. So here first we again set console as null, and we create one HTTP client which will be used to connect to Salesforce, and here we are creating REST call URL. So we will use here get method in the REST API to connect to Salesforce. So here we are defining the REST call URL. So this is the connection URL we are going to use to connect to Salesforce and get list of objects. So this is defined by Salesforce, that slash service URL slash, which will be the ap1.salesforce.com slash service slash data slash v33.0 and s objects. Okay, now we are going to use HTTP request message class. So previously we have used response message which will hold the response. Now this is the request message which will create one request format which will be sent via HTTP client, and here it will be defined which kind of method we are going to use. So HTTP method dot get. Now we have to add some header here, that with the HTTP request, that message we have defined previously, we are going to add some header. So the syntax will be HTTP API request, which is the HTTP request message dot header dot accept dot add new media type with quality header value. So this value will define what kind of request it would be. So we have to define here. So we are using HTTP header, so it's .NET provided. So here we have to define what type of media you are going to send, I mean what type of content you are sending as a request. So it would be application JSON. So we are sending application JSON as a GET request, and then we create one API request header add authorization. So it would be like what authorization we are going to use for. So this authorization would be the bearer plus this authentication token which we have obtained previously. That's why this authentication token was defined as a global variable. So we will use this authentication token for future purpose as well, for any connection to be made with Salesforce. So we use that as a header. Now we define one HTTP response message which will hold the response message received from Salesforce. Okay, so it's very simple. For this GET request, first define the HTTP client, then HTTP request message, then add the headers, and here receive the response message. So it's await API call client, which has been defined the HTTP client, and we are using the send async, so it will send that request, and in the send async the parameter would be the API request. So it's the request message that we have used. Okay, so we are sending this message to Salesforce, that service URL, sorry, REST call URL. Okay, so once the response is received, we have to say define it, we have to convert it to string. So converting a string, it's simple as we did before, that the response message dot content dot read all string async, so it will read all the content of the string asynchronously. Okay, so let's see if we receive the response, what way. So we write it into the console dot write line, so it will write into the debug log console. Now if we run the application login, it has been successfully logged in, and here get list of objects. So if we click on that button, it is giving some error, so it would be, there will be on space here. Okay, you need to remember this, be error space authentication token. Now if we perform the login, now you have the authorization token, and after login successfully, if we click on the guest list of objects, it will start accessing all the list of objects. Here you can see it's still accessing. Okay, so we have all the list of objects, but the response which has been received is in JSON format, so we have to again use the JSON object. So if we try to see in a JSON format, we debug it in by run into cursor, and here you can see the response message has been received. Such a way, if we try to decode it in JSON visualization using the JSON visualizer, you can see these are the response message we have received: encoding UTF-8, max size 200, max batch size 200, and these are the, and a subject contains a list array of JSON objects. Okay, now we have to decode that using the JSON object. So how do we do it? Here we create one list of string which will hold list of values of the name of the objects that has been received. Okay, so this is the list of objects. Now if this API response, the response message is success, status code, so this is boolean. Okay, so it should either it will be true or false. So if is status code is success status code, then it will move into this loop. Here we are creating one J object as a subject is subject J object, and we are parsing it this string, this request response in a string format. Okay, so now we have the JSON objects with parsed. Okay, now we are going to create one JSON token. Now JSON token contains all the list of JSON content which present into the JSON object. Okay, so we are creating this J token. J tokens is equal to J object. Here you need to define the token name. Okay, so in the token name, what we are going to use, we again do the run cursor for the debugging and perform the login and try to get list of objects. and here if we visualize it into the JSON visualizer, using the JSON visualizer, we can see these are the different key. So we copy the key and we have to get its specific value. So for first two, the specific value would be the 1, I mean would be a single value, but for third it should be a list of array, list of j objects. Okay, so if we try to see this first one and print here console write line this token and run it, okay, it is unsuccessful because I typed the wrong username. Now the login is successful, and if we try to get list of objects, we can see that for this access token, for this key encoding, we have the value as UTF-8, as we are correctly receiving the response. Now if we do the same for max batch size, okay, we'll receive the response. Now secondly, we are considering the child tokens dot children. So using this method we can easily access what is the count. So for first two, the child is 0. Here you can see the first and last is null. Okay, but for S object, here you can see 200, but for S object this count should be more than 0. Okay, so we have to place one condition here. If the count is greater than 0 and this token value is replaced with S object, then it will move into this loop saying that has childs. Okay, let's see if it has more than 0 count or not. Okay, we provide the username and the password and try to log in. Once login successful, if we try to get the objects, it will move into this loop. Okay, you can see it's moving. So it has moved into this loop. So we have to write the code in this way that we can access all the list of childs. So for that we are going to use one for loop. For each j token, jt in this tokens dot child, so it will have all the list of childs for S object, and again we are going to use one for loop, because you saw that within the in the JSON visualizer we saw within the S object there are multiple childs, and within that there were JSON objects. So we use the J property to access all those childs property. Okay, so in the J property we access the value. Alright, so this value should be the all S objects child's property value. Okay, so if we try to get list of objects now and see, these are the different child objects property and its corresponding value. Okay, so within that property there is one value and there is one name. So name is the key and value is its value. So to access those objects value, we have to define, we have to get the key as name, and if j value to string contains, sorry, ends with underscore underscore c, that means we are trying to access list of custom objects. Okay, then add those values to this string, list of string, this dot value. Okay, so here we get name and value. So you can also see for other properties as well. So it will return all the list of objects property, like name, like there are number of properties. Okay, now we are going to print those list of string, print that list of string to the console. That console we have created in the text box. Okay, so for that we are using this for loop for each string s in a subject list, that console dot append text s. Okay, so before that we said that append text, set that console with one header as list of custom object, alright. So this is how we set the console header. Now here we do the same for here, for this within this for loop, that append text s and let's see if we run the application how does it look like. And we just place one threading to delay for the to print the object list one by one, so that you can see. So first we do the login and then get list of objects. Here you can see it is printing, so we just have to append one new line there. Alright, so it will print in a good way. Now let's see how does it look like. If we perform the login and then try to get list of objects, here it's very simple. So these are the list of custom objects has been returned only because we are restricted with the API name ends with underscore underscore c. So we have logged in into this, we have connected to this org, and this is the object API name, and here also the custom object present, you can see. So we just have to add one vertical scroll bar so that you can drag, you can scroll and see easily. Alright, so this is how we are getting list of objects. Now let's write down all those list of objects to a text file. Okay, so for that we are creating one variable to access current directory. So for that you have to use directory.getCurrentDirectory method. G should be capital. So this variable will hold the current directory path address, and there is one class there is one method into the file class that write all lines, which will write a list to a text file. Okay, so we just have to place the path first. Here we are creating one temp folder and the text file name, comma, this content. So content should be the list of string here. So if we use this method, the list of string will be written to the text file. Okay, so but now this is for if API response is success code is equal to true. What if there is authorization error, that you have done the logged out? Then how you are going to display the error? So for that we use response reason fetch. Now as if we try to access the application, so we need to assign one icon here. So how do we assign icon to that application? So we go to the project properties, and from here we select the icon. So this is the icon you can select and save, and if we debug again, in the debug folder you can easily see the application there with icon that has been defined. So this is the debug folder, and here this is the exe file. Now we place this exe file here and create one folder as temp. Alright, so if you run this application now and try to log in, it is giving one error as DLL file. So we have defined one Newtonsoft package, so we have to get that file and keep into this local folder. Now if we run and try to log in, it will log in successfully, and if we try to get list of objects, you can see there these are the list of objects, and in the temp folder the file has been created, the text file. So that text file contains all the list of custom objects. Okay, so this is how we define we create this application. So if we try to get list of objects one more time, it will access all the list of objects from Salesforce org and will write down into the text file. So the explanation is like you are creating HTTP client, you are defining what is the URL you are going to call or you are going to request to, and you are creating one request message, sending the request, receiving the response into request response message, and parsing into JSON object, and using the JSON token and JSON property you are accessing the value, accessing the JSON property name, and writing it to a string file, and writing that string file into the text file. Okay, now for the logout, and logout using post method and logout using get method. So for the logout using post method, it's very simple, and it would be asynchronous again, as we are sending the request to Salesforce. Now we are creating one HTTP client, and as we did the same for login, here we have defined one dictionary, so we have to do the same for logout again, but for logout the token should be different. So the dictionary token and its corresponding value should be the so here we need to define the token like this, corresponding key and its value. So the key should be the token. So it is defined by Salesforce itself that for logout the key should be token and the value should be authentication token that has been received, that session ID. Okay, access token. So this is the token we have received, we have added into the dictionary, and then we are going to create one content for that dictionary using the same method form URL encoded. So and after that we will send that request using post method in the HTTP. So content should be for logout content here, and this URL should be the service URL which we have received already, the server URL. Okay, and this would be the revoke. This token would be the replaced with revoke. So we have to send the post request to this URL. Okay, and we have to place the client here because we are using this HTTP client class to send the request. Okay, so this is the HTTP response message, and we are decoding it into a string, converting into a string using this read as string asynchronously. Okay, now we are going to write the response to specific place like console there. So first we initialize the console as null, and then we write the text as logout status. So this is the logout status, logout using or access revoking using post method. So we first set the header as this is the access revoke using the post method. Okay, now we get the response from this message, that HTTP response message here is success code. Okay, so we have to append one string here. So status code as this status code, so it should be true. All right, now we just have to place one concatenation here. Okay, here. Now we will print the logout status, logout result with other properties as well as status code, reason, phase, all these things. So it should be okay, true, false, and other responses as well. Now if logout is, if we get any issue with the logout as well, then how we are going to print? if it is okay, then it will print as, status code is equal to okay, then it will print as successfully access revoked. And if it is not, then it will again print the reason phase. So you remember that we got the response as bad request or unauthorized, something like that. So there could be multiple type of reasons. So that kind of reason we can have. Okay. So we debug and again replace this file and try to log in again. And if we see that we are getting list of objects or not, yeah, we are getting list of objects. Now if we try to log out using post method, it will say that logout status is true, all these properties has been printed successfully. Now if we try to get list of objects again, it will say unauthorized. Now if we log in again and get list of objects, then it will get all the list of objects. Okay. Now if we log out, it will say logout successful. Okay, so its logout method is working successfully. So it's application level logout. So using .NET we have implemented the logout using the post method. Now if we try to implement it using the get method, again it should be async, as we are sending the request and receiving the response asynchronously. So first we create the HTTP client. It should be same as we get the list of objects using get method. So for that we are using the same code. So we use the same code as we first create the HTTP client. Then call URL, which URL we are going to use. We have to use this URL. But as we are for get we are hitting one specific URL, we have to pass the parameter into the URL itself. Okay, so the parameter would be that token is equal to that authorization token. This token which we have used in the post method, the same will be done here. Okay, so we are using the request URL as this, and this request, we are creating one request message with defining method, which method we are going to use, and the rest call URL, that URL which has been defined for logout, and we are receiving the response into the response message, the same. Okay, by sending it using the send async method. Alright, so this is the same. We are receiving this HTTP response method, and we are going to print the same into the console as well. So in the console the status will be the same for the post method, for the get method as well. We just have to replace the HTTP response name with this. Okay, and it should be same, and here just we have to use set as get method. So this is the get method, very simple. And if we run, we just have to copy this file and place it here. Now if we run this file with proper username and password and log in, you can see it's successfully logged in and we getting all the list of objects properly. Okay, now if we log out using get method, it's saying that logout is okay, is successfully access revoked. And if we try to log out using post method, now it will say that bad request. So because it has already been logged out. Now if we try to get the objects, it's saying that unauthorized. So it's working fine for both methods, logout using post method and logout using get method. As you can see, we are getting the list of objects, but after logout using post method, and if we try to use the get method again, we are getting the same error, and we are logging again. Okay, now simply we just implement this exit method, so it would be the this dot close. Okay, so it will close the form. Alright, so it's very simple. We just click on close button and it will be closed. Now going with the explanation of the code, firstly again I said that we are defining all this method for login, that we are creating dictionary, sending it using the post method. The dictionary contains different token and its value, the key and value pair, and using that key value pair into the content, sending it into using the HTTP client and receiving in the response and converting into JSON object. Here you can install this JSON package from this link. You can find details into the description of this video. Then we are defining creating the validation for logout for login and its error in login. For get all list of objects, we are using the get method. We are hitting this server hitting this URL and accessing the response using this HTTP response message, and we are decoding the response message using JSON object, and after that we are defining the key as S object and using the for loop accessing the J property of each J token. Okay, so in the name as name and value would be the specific value, and we are writing it into the file. And if any error like logged out, then if we try to access the object again, then it will throw the error. Now for the logout using the post method, we are using the post method same this URL. You need to you can get it from Salesforce again, that REST URL for this, and this is the UI which has been defined with all the components listed. You can easily access. This is the file has been created. This is the application, and you can do the login, and you can log out. You can get list of objects. Okay, as this is not yet refreshed, we just have to get it from here. You can find the debugged application into the debug folder of your Visualforce community SDK. You can download it from Microsoft site. It's free. Just have to register with your email. So enjoy your coding, enjoy your application creation, keep learning, Okay, for any queries, type your question into the comment. More tutorials is coming on the way. Thanks. And all these codes are present into the description of this video. You can easily download it. So please subscribe, and please keep sharing this channel with your friends and colleagues. You can create your own application and connect to Salesforce. For any queries, type your comment into the comment box. We'll definitely reach out. Thanks for watching this video. Please subscribe, like, share. Thank you very much.